Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Drunk Camera Reviews. Today, it's December now, it's Christmas time, and today I have here my... I have here one of my good friends, Brendan. He was able to lend me his Nikon F4 for the month of November, so I've been playing around with it the entire month, and got some feelings about it. This is pretty good. Okay, so now we're gonna get into it. Just some basic info about the Nikon F4. Of course, 35mm film camera takes your standard 35mm film. It was introduced in 1988, and it was designed by Giorgio. I have no idea if I pronounced that correctly, but it's an Italian name. Italian designed, and look at it. I mean, this thing looks good. I'm bummed they got rid of all these dials, but I mean, they brought it back with like the Nikon DF, and everyone like Fuji and Olympus and all those guys are doing it now. But this thing, these dials, they're so clicky and tactile, and I love all of them. Being able to change all the settings, exposure comp, and just being able to change it all. That dude killed it with this design. And it's actually, it's somewhat comfy to hold in the hand. This thing weighs a fucking ton, but even the portrait grip, it works pretty well. It's currently turned off. Actually, it's not turned off. If you don't have any film in it, it won't fire. So that's the thing. But yes, more about this. It was the first professional camera in the world to feature a built-in AF, or a built-in motor drive, and a practical autofocus system. It kind of wasn't, because there was the F3 AF thing that only could work with like a few lenses, but I don't care. This is the one where it's all built into this camera, and it works great. It's actually pretty goddamn quick compared to my EOS 650. Now the F4 was of course made to replace the Nikon F3, but actually the F3 lasted longer. It was in production for about 4 more years than the F4. I don't know why. I mean, I can definitely tell you why, because the F3 is still a goddamn sexy camera and is built like a tank. This thing, still sexy, but it just doesn't have the same appeal as the F3. Now, the lens that I have on it it's the Nikkor 28mm f2.8. It's not the D, it's not the AIS, it's just the standard AF. I know a lot of people don't like that lens, but to be honest, I could care less. It's actually worked out pretty well for me. This one's very simple. It's just 5 elements, 5 groups, and it's a little soft, wide open, but I mean, stop it down f5.6, f8, and it's pretty dang sharp. So no complaints about that. All right, getting into we'll start off with the top plate. You've got your ISO selector. Now you can either set it just to read the DX code, or if you push it in, you can go all the way to 6400 if you really wanted to push it that far. I've been usually setting it, if I do like T-Max 400, I'll set it to 800 or 1600, just push it a little bit, and it works really well. Or then you can just set it all the way back to DX, works just like that. And then you've of course got your film rewind. Nikon did a weird thing with this one where it gave you both a motor rewind and a manual rewind. I don't know why, but I find it super. I've never used this rewind, and it's actually like super nice to use, but there's 2 rewind buttons. If you just push this one and pull it out, it'll let you manually rewind it, but if you push it and then also pull this down, this rewind number 2, it will auto rewind it. I don't know why they did that, but I think it's actually pretty cool because I've never seen a camera that actually has that. Now, another thing it's got a little latch right here for you to pull this up, and you can pop the back out. That's how that works. Easy as that. Now, there's also supposed to be another little button right here. Oh, shut up. It's supposed to be, because this whole viewfinder is removable. Now, the release button for that is currently missing. It was missing when Brendan bought it, so, I mean, maybe we can get that replaced, but who really cares? Ugh. Now, speaking of the viewfinder, you've got a few different things on here. One of my favorite things is kind of interesting. it's got a viewfinder shutter. I guess that's what you would call it. It's basically just to block extra light that could come in through the viewfinder during long exposures and mess up your exposure. And you've also got your diopter adjuster, which just pulls out, and then you twist it, and you push it back in, it's all good. And you've also got your metering system. Now this camera had a pretty impressive matrix metering system. The one nice thing about the F4 was it also metered with old manual lenses, not just new fancy lenses. So you got advanced matrix metering with any lens that you put on this, which was a big plus to a lot of people out in the field when they were using this camera. But you can also do center weighted and of course spot metering just by flipping a little switch right here. No fiddling through menus, it's all just boom, boom, boom right there. You've also got, moving on to the next side of the camera, the business end, you've got your shutter speed dial selector with everything. I don't really touch that because I'm an aperture priority guy, so I'm a complete scrub. So I don't touch any of these dials, but they feel so good to use because they're big, they're rubber coated, so you can just sit there all day and there's no issues with being able to turn this lens. Now, you've also got your X, T, and B, of course. Now, those ones, of course, are bulb. You've got your time exposure, or your timed exposure, and then you've got your X, which is maximum flash sync. So you set it to that, and it will automatically set it to your max flash sync speed, and I think that's, fuck, I forget what it is. Put it on the screen. Now, you've also got your exposure comp button, or switch, which is actually pretty nice. I didn't really get to using it that much unless I was shooting like color, and then I was like, oh, I'm gonna push it one stop, or 2 stops. That's what I normally did with, what was it, Portra 160 and Portra 400. I usually like to push 1 stop because, I don't know, I like the way it looks. Now, the other thing that's along with the exposure or your shutter thing that I forgot to mention is this little switch right here, which I completely blanked out with it because I forgot it was even there. This is your viewfinder illuminator. So normally your viewfinder is illuminated by this little guy right here and this little guy right here on sunny days. But you're in a dark room, it lights up for you, which is super convenient, especially when you're trying to see what your shutter speed is in a dark situation. Yeah, I felt like a complete idiot realizing that so late. But that's a thing, and it works really well. It's a nice green hue. Now onto your mode selector, which goes from manual, aperture priority, of course, my favorite, shutter priority, I don't think I've ever used that, program mode, which is basically just selects a good average shutter speed and aperture, and then you have program high, which favors a faster shutter speed over a more average shutter speed and aperture. I think it's pretty cool, especially when shooting like sports and such. It makes it very, very quick to adjust your settings, and I've never used it, but I think that would be very, very helpful if you were shooting sports with this, due to it actually having a pretty good continuous autofocus. Now, around your shutter button, you have your film drive modes, which goes from, you have a lock, which will just lock it. And actually, locking, I've heard that even if you just leave this camera unlocked, just sitting in like any of these modes, the batteries will last for goddamn ever. So, I mean, I don't even know why you would lock it except just to keep it in your bag. But you've got your single shot, you've got your continuous high, you've got your continuous low, and then you've got your continuous silent, which is actually kind of neat. It'll do about, I think it's like 0.8 frames per second, but it gives you a completely silent, well, not completely silent, it's a pretty silent shutter. I'll load up some film in here in a second, I'll show you. And then you also have your timer. I actually used that recently during Thanksgiving because we set it up on a tripod for a photo. We should get those photos back soon eventually. That is everything on the top plate. Now, we can move on to the front, which has a few things. You've got, one of the things that I find is actually pretty interesting is your mirror lockup button, which you just push it in and then twist it, and that locks up your mirror, and then you can just boop, and there's a mirror. It's good just because I guess it helps reduce vibrations. When you already have your exposure and your framing, you can just lock the mirror up and not have to worry about any shutter slap or any of that messing up your exposure. And you've also got your auto exposure lock, a little button right here, and I guess it's a 2-stage button. Not really sure what it actually does because I've never used it. And then you've got your, oh no, that was autofocus lock. Whoopsies. Your auto exposure lock is down here. Never used either of those. Then you have your focus modes, which goes from manual focus, which just lets you spin the ring all day. And then you've got your single shot, and then your continuous. Continuous is pretty interesting. I normally just keep it on single because with this, especially with the 28, I don't do much continuous focusing with it. Mainly I just stick it to, okay, I'm taking a picture of a thing, there's the thing, frame up, good, done. And you also got, of course, your lens release. There it is. Boop, done. Now, also what's here, he's got a few more things. There's this down here on the bottom of the battery grip, and this is for a remote cable release. There's actually a few spots for that. There's one on the back as well that's actually built into the camera, but I think this is a slightly more advanced version of it. So that is that. And then you also have, of course, your PC sync slot. Oh, my knees. We move on to the back, which really has nothing to it. I mean, you've got your little film release thingy, but you've got, I do believe this is for a cable release. I think so. It's just a very simple screw in cable release. And then you've got your battery tester. 2 lights is good. 1 light is, be worried. And no lights is change your goddamn batteries. And then to actually get to the batteries, you can just slide this out. You have 2 AA's right there. Or no, 3 AA's right there, 3 AA's right there. And then this whole bottom can come off, which I don't think we have the standard base on it. I think it only came with this base. So we just keep it as that to begin with. And this just slides on there just like that. Very good. Now, the way you load it, got a nice old roll of Portra 400. And now, as you see, you slide this little button over, lift up on this, pops the back open, and there you see is the nice shutter and the whole winding, or the whole film loading mechanism. Oh God, I almost knocked over my beer. So, with this up and out of the way, can slide your roll of film in. As soon as it decides it would like to get in there, there we go. Pull it all the way over. It's nice and in there. There we go. Now, in single, it's going to auto wind it for you. And it winds it to your first shot. Now, I kind of want to take the camera over here because I got my cat. It's over there. Yes, okay. So, that is how that works. As you can see, the focus motor is very loud. It's incredibly robotic. And as you can see, you can... It's not the sharpest, it's not the quickest mostly, but it gets the job done, especially for a camera that's as old as it is and has such a basic autofocus system. Ugh. But anyways, I do believe I think that's a good basics of a good tour of the Nikon F4 and everything that goes along with it. See, now I gotta shoot that roll of 400. I don't even know what the fuck I'm gonna do with it. This camera's kind of grown on me in weird ways. It's not as simple as ones I usually use, because I use a lot of point and shoots. And getting something like this that has so many settings and so many different options to choose from, I kind of find myself shooting it like I would a point and shoot, except it's just way bigger. I know I'm going to get good results out of it, just because with the advanced matrix metering system and the good autofocus system, I'm most likely not going to miss a shot, but I guess it just kind of gives me the confidence that I'm going to get what I want out of the shot that I'm looking for. I don't even know how to describe it, but I found myself really enticed by this camera, and honestly, once I have to send this back to Brendan, I'm probably going to want to buy one for myself. Or if Brendan just buys an F5 or F6 and then just lets me keep this one, who knows? I'll probably just buy it off of him. But where was my train of thought going? I don't even know. I need another beer. Oh yeah, I would really like to keep this for longer. I know Brendan's probably itching to get it back, but I have had a really good time actually using this camera and just going through every little nook and cranny of it and just figuring out all the little fine details of what I enjoy about the shooting experience about the F4. And it really just comes down to, you have all these options, but you can find your own setting. You can find how you like to shoot it, and then you have all these other options. So if you want to change it up, you can, but you can settle down into like a nice comfy, like me, aperture priority, and just have fun with it, and just know you're going to get some decent results out of it. That's what I really enjoy about it. So that's going to do it for my review of the lovely Nikon F4. If you like this review, be sure to give me a like, and if you got any questions for me, yeah, shoot me a comment. I usually like to chat with people on my community. There's a good amount of you now. It's crazy. I mean, I didn't think it would get that far. But, yeah. And if you want to see more of my very silly work, subscribe. I'm sure I'm gonna continue doing this for as long as there are cameras in this world. So, until next time, have a good rest of your day.